So we should wait for the connection on Zoom to YouTube, and then hopefully we are live. No one sent me any email complaining that they cannot join. Apart from Vincent.
From me.
Sorry. Yes, sorry. That's what I was almost going to reboot my computer to say shush. It's always the last minute, things that happen. Sometimes is when you have like poor internet connections for whatever reason. Anyways, so welcome everyone. I'm very excited to welcome the artists Linnea Billingsley Akap, Billie Ocean, and Vincent C.Y. Chen from Deformal Gallery. They are both, they both worked together a few months ago during Billie's artist residency at Deformal. And a few words and introduction about Billie. So Billie is an experimental filmmaker and videographer whose works traverse the wet layers of our internal landscapes and fixates it on the need for a journey towards healing our hearts and internal environment. Her work transmutes the spiritual, emotional into a visual sensory experience. She has shown conceptual videos and visual artworks at Classic Cars West in Oakland, Swim Gallery in San Francisco, and Coachella in Los Angeles, as well as created videos and visuals for artist Toro Imoy. Mowala Lara, Kelly Lee Owens, and Spelling. With our second guest, Vincent C.Y. Chen is a New York-based artist, curator, and residency director. He is the co-founder and director of Deformal, for the online first platform dedicated to promoting artists who work with experimental mediums under recognized in the conventional gallery system. The Deformal Gallery conducts artist interviews, curates online and offline exhibitions, and hosts monthly virtual residencies. Chen works in sculptures and installation. His work explored the tension between shame and desire, especially in the exotic. He explored these ideas in atmospheric, multimedia, display that borrow iconography from queer culture, children's media, and Abrahamic religions. He received his BFA in Fine Arts from the School of Visual Arts in 2015 and his MFA in Studio Art at New York University in 2019. So welcome to both of you. Vincent, maybe you could tell us a bit about Deformal and what is in your program.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yangmi, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Vincent C.Y. Chen. I'm the co-founder of Deformal and Deformal Residency. Our other co-founder, Wednesday Kim, is also listening here with us. Hi, Wednesday. And I'm here today with an artist, filmmaker, and the very first resident at Deformal Residency, Linnea Billingsley, aka Billie Ocean. We're going to talk about her work, her background, and the intersection of colorism, media, and other concepts Billie explores in her practice. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Deformal and Deformal Residency before Billie starts her presentation. So Deformal is a digital platform dedicated to promoting artists working in mediums underrepresented in the commercial art world. We focus on installations, performance, digital, and expanded art. Since 2015, we've been conducting artist interviews, curating online exhibitions. And last year, after the pandemic happened, we know that everything was canceled or postponed. And we are thinking, how can Deformal, a digital platform, create a space for artists to experiment on digital art? We wanted to create a program that allows artists to continue their practice, generate conversations, and harness communities in this dark and isolating time. We knew that many people were either laid off or had to relocate and leave their studios due to the lockdown. So we wanted to facilitate a program that is not only free to apply and participate, but also easily accessible. Anyone with a computer and internet can join. That's when we decided to start the online residency. Our residency is a 1 month long program. It is a virtual space for artists to explore and create digital art. Our residents each create a browser-based digital installation during their time at Deformal. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Billie Ocean to share her work with you all.
Hello. I'm just going to jump right into it and then give a more formal intro after, but thank you everyone for being here. 1 second while I try to navigate technology.
you to see what soon you will forget. You're beautiful. Now go back to sleep. You won't see me when you wake up.
Hi everyone, I'm Linnea Billingsley, aka Billie Ocean, as was previously stated. Thank you for coming here. Blab for a little bit. The piece we just watched was my first fully fleshed out video piece made back in 2017 as part of a class project at CCA, California College of the Arts. In my experimental animation class, led by one of my fave professors, Christoph Steger, shout out. And the contents or themes of the piece were specifically inspired by another class at CCA, which was this yearbook class led by another one of my favorite professors, Shyla Hamilton. It was a guided ancestral meditation. And I just remember seeing all these it was an hour long too, and I just remember seeing all these beautiful trippy visuals and visions and had these sensations, and I was just so moved by it, and that's what led me to create this video piece. But this piece kind of definitely feels like this pivotal seed moment that sparked the rest of my video career, like a little flame. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Yes. It was also my first exploration with internal questioning, like meditative healing, visual healing, sonic healing, shadow work, learning how to nurture myself, and listen to my intuition and listen to my ancestors, and listen to pain, and really become comfortable with love, particularly for myself, but just love in general in the many forms that takes. I would describe my work as the spewing of the subconscious into the conscious, giving sight to feeling. My practice aims to sort of transmute the spiritual and the emotional into this visual and visceral sensory experience that touches and mends the subconscious, traversing through the wet, sticky layers of our internal environments, fixate on this pivotal journey or need towards healing our hearts and in turn healing community. Often I depict the ways in which people of color are brainwashed, particularly Black people, the sickening division that colorism births, using some of the same seductive tactics the media uses to brainwash us towards divisive self-hatred. I wanted to flip that shit inside out, in an attempt to brainwash people towards radically loving themselves again. So using these, these evil tools that were meant for just evil doing, and bringing it back to love and kind of tricking the system in a way. Also all in the aim just to reclaim the self and gain an acceptance of self, a true visceral acceptance of self. And I really intended for these spaces and intend for these spaces to feel like a suspension of time, a space to hydrate your heart, your mind, your energy, a space to breathe, a space to feel. And I'm very interested in exploring and expanding upon the forms these healing spaces take, exploring different ways to immerse the viewer via sound, via environment, real and digital, installation, dance, etc., etc., etc. There's just power. There's power in love. Obviously, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. And a lot of us haven't experienced that, and we live in a world that's just so devoid of that, and particularly makes Black people at times feel like they don't quite, not deserve it, but it's not quite, the way it's received is different. So in this society where we're just constantly being put down and perceived incorrectly, we almost have to work twice as hard to make sure we have and keep like love in our lives. This piece here is my digital installation with New Art City, which further is more of a like digital video game-esque exploration with wound healing as well, but it's more so laid out into this sort of labyrinth, like the labyrinth of a wound, the labyrinth of your heart, and just descending further and further down into, these different areas and corners and nooks. And there's these little conversations, held by rabbits, which of course, like rabbits kind of like, in cinema have, or just in general have been this sort of like kind of guiding, leading force, or if you're lost, like kind of look for a rabbit, kind of like an Alice in Wonderland vibe, just going further and further down, and you have to keep going further and further down to eventually ascend and come out of this wound and be able to breathe. So yeah, I really wanted to explore what that might look like in this digital realm, and I'm heavily inspired by like 90s video games. So it definitely is something that I loved doing when I was younger, and I loved the way those aesthetics were, and I kind of wanted to take those same tropes and make it something that felt relatable to me and in general. So okay, now I'm going to share another screen. I'm going to start just kind of scroll through my deformal installation. Pull it up. Share. Can you see that? Is that even happening? Okay. All right, so this is the first. I created these 4 rooms with Deformal, and each one kind of embodies a specific feeling. Some of the main themes are heartbreak, the feeling of love drying up, and you trying to build yourself back up after that. These feelings of reconnecting with like your ancestors, and finding protection and like pride in that. And then lastly, I wanted it to feel very like meditative, and during this time, a lot of like crazy shit was going on. Like COVID happened, the world was turned upside down, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, like all these insane, like just, everything just felt like just out of control in this way it led a lot of people to really spiral. And so it's including, myself. So I wanted to make this space that felt kind of like this resting point, a digital resting point. Let me get some sound going. So this first one is, can you hear that? Yeah.
A slow reclamation of your being after love crept in and grew hollow roots through the middle of your heart. Protect your energy or unravel. Last night, love appeared at the foot of my bed. I lay still, half awake under my white linen sheet, debating if this glowing, sublime form before me was part of a dream.
You don't have time to watch the entire thing, but I'm just going to click through a bit. This one was really, this specific installation room was really, I guess, special and important feeling to me, because I was processing a lot that year, particularly with love, and it felt just like I was drowning in it, you know? So I really had to just take that. I really was happy that it lined up with Deformal, that because I was processing so much in my head, and the way it lined up with Vincent hitting me up and being like, hey, do you want to like have this installation space? And I was like, damn, yeah, I kind of need it. Like I need to like process what I'm feeling outside of my body, because it was just feeling like so much. The next one is called Every Nigga is a Star. Perfect place.
I'm not sure anymore just how it happened.
So the next one is Straight. This one particularly talks about like reconnecting with your ancestral blood, with ancestral history, trauma, and how I relate to that, and how that can be a force of like a means for protection. There we go. It's loading a little slow because I live with 5 people and everyone's on the Wi-Fi right now. So there's that. Okay, and this last piece also further kind of deals with feeling like you're drowning in love, in pain, and trying to rename yourself and find that balance. This installation is linked in my page, and it's also archived on Deformal's page. So I wanted to close with my most recent video piece that I just released a month ago called Soft Nest. And it kind of feels like this closing of a chapter coming out of like all the just insanity of 2020 and 2021 and like heartbreak, and finally being at a place of like knowing, and a place of maybe not peace, but just complete, I guess, awareness of self, and just being at a place of like, I guess, acceptance is what this piece is more. Acceptance of self, acceptance of the situation, and where to go from that. Because there was a lot of like spiraling, and now this piece is kind of like the aftermath and like the growth that comes from the chaos. So thank you all for watching my little presentation. This is Softness. Oh, nope, just kidding. Can you see that?
No, we lost the screen share.
Technology, y'all. Okay.
Look at my little fucking eggs. You know what those eggs are? They're me, I guess. It's my spirit. It's my fucking love. Incubation, incubation, incubation. Chained heart. body disconnected, floor hot, ceiling hot. When's the last time you looked at yourself? And I mean really looked at yourself and felt fully lost in you, I get lost in others.
Feet tied, tongue tied, throat tied, mouth open, but I can't scream because my fucking throat's tied. It's been tied my whole life, really.
Are your thoughts feeling crunchy too? Because mine are. It's kind of like a chainsaw, going around and around in a circle. Cyclical. I'm used to it now. It's been so long.
I wasn't scared. I knew exactly where to go.
I hope you're feeling better today. I'm doing okay.
And fell into a pool of blue water, and there you were. There all of you were. Watching me. Holding me, licking me. Fixing.
You are your nest. Your nest is your home. Your nest is love. Your nest is you. Your nest is protection. Your nest is good home. So nurture it, care for it. Your nest is you.
Hot fucking tin pack, and I'm just like, damn bitch. You're the fucking one, your head. How dare you let any motherfucker make you question that shit? You a fly ass bitch. You know what I mean? I'm saying this to you too. I'm saying this to you, Washi. Guard your eggs and those fucking eggs.
And crush your eggs. And crush you. And crush your nest. And crush you. You are your nest.
I feel like a ghost most times. I feel like I'm floating like above or in between or floating in the water, waiting, seeing, lonely. Do you ever feel like a ghost, even though you're right in the middle?
I know where it hurt, and I like the moon. Betrayal and emotion. Open wide and kiss my soul. Okay, maybe I'm crying, but maybe it's like calming down. You're not calming down. You don't have to explain. I promise you don't have to explain. I understand.
All you got is you. And you felt
floating. And you're floating. And you're fucking floating. I'm about to float back into my body now and wake up. I guess I've been astral projecting or something. Feels good. Dissociation. But that's enough of that now.
Okay. Always heard. Oh wait, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm muted. Thank you for sharing
Also,
your work with us.
thank you. I want to shout out I had like 4 of my friends contribute sound to that piece, which was beautiful. So with Harsher, Nyla, Hunter, Bryn, myself, so I guess 3. But yeah. Keys provided sound.
It's beautiful, the sound.
Thank you.
So I have some questions and topics I'd like to discuss with you today. And so last time we talked, you've mentioned your experience growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood and how it affected your journey to find your own voice growing up. Can you share more about this history with us?
Yeah, I feel like, well, I grew up in Rohnert Park, California, which is basically like Twin Peaks. And I was the only, in my elementary school, I was one of the 2 Black people that went there. So, you know, it definitely felt like all of my friends are white, and I never wanted to be white, but I definitely wanted to just assimilate closer to that. Which was like something I didn't quite realize until I became older, and particularly till I moved to Vegas and I went to a like all Black school basically, which was beautiful and so needed, but like that jarring difference was just almost like a culture shock. And my family's really small as well, so I was just kind of around like my small family and then like my school, and so it really kind of influenced how I saw myself, and definitely influence like negative thought patterns like about my image, like thinking like, oh, you know, if I look like this, then that, or if I didn't look like this, then that type of thing. And another thing that's already like ingrained in a lot of like Black communities, there's already like these colorism kind of like pitting each other, like there's a lot of like pitting against each other already. And so it just created these interesting dynamics that like weren't healthy, that I really had to unlearn in order to kind of find like self-love and I guess self-acceptance, and just see the beauty in art, I guess in myself, or just in the beauty in just Blackness in general. Not that I never didn't see the beauty in Blackness, but I feel like I was just so detached from it growing up.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of learning and unlearning and all of that, just from growing up with the Eurocentric beauty ideal and just everything on the media.
Well, and all of my uncles like married white women too, so, which is fine, but I was just kind of like fully immersed, you know? And so it was a lot of just a lot of just learning. Like, okay, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, that connects to like my next question for you is like many people of color like have difficulties with self-love because like we live in a world that tells us explicitly and implicitly that our body features and ancestries are something to be ashamed of. And like when we were growing up, the media shaped our mind about ourselves, our desirability, and our place in the world. And I'm wondering like, how can we discover ourselves and love ourselves when POCs are rarely portrayed as humans that contains multitudes? We're usually sidekicks, caricatures of just it's to serve the white character in their stories. So yeah, curious like what you think about it.
Yeah, we are often just like the side character or like the ones doing a lot of the work but don't get much credit like in films, which is like, okay, what? Like without this character, like where would you be right now? You know, but we're still just like the friend or whatever. Yeah, I think it's just becoming more conscious of what's happening. One thing I feel like when there was this UK show called Misfits, so good. And it was the first time I saw, like Black people being represented in a super casual way, because normally in American TV or television, like if a Black character is the main character, there's some sort of like explanation about it, or it's like really talked about. Or like if someone is randomly dating a Black person, they're like, oh, well, it's because he grew up in the hood, or you know what I mean? Like there's always this like context. But in this show, like two of the main characters were Black, casually, no explanation needed. It felt very natural. Like a lot of the love interests were also Black. And I was just like, oh my God, like it's crazy like experiencing this and seeing how jarringly different it is from like American media. So I guess really just watching shows that were based outside of the US is what really kind of like made me see what was going on. And then also just further, like a lot of Black representation, especially with say a love interest here in America, like they're always lighter skinned, or if they're or it's a movie about slavery, like there's always just some weird dynamic going on. It's like, how come we just can't exist casually like everyone else? Like why can't we just have a, you know, like a random show like random movie like 13 going on 30, and there's no like intense, you know, kind of background as to how Black people are just casually existing, you know? So I think it's just about being conscious and really, which is hard because we're constantly surrounded by these dynamics, like even when we're scrolling on Instagram, but I think it's happening anyway. Like I think people are becoming more and more conscious, especially during COVID, where people had all this time to really take in what was going on. And you even see that with like the Oscars, like the Oscar representation this last time was crazy. Like, and it didn't necessarily feel forced either. Like it felt like people were actually like, damn, like all this shit is going on. Like, let's actually they were maybe opening their eyes, but there was a lot of pressure for them to be like, y'all need to do better. So I think nowadays people are kind of like pushing like, you need to do better narrative. And that will in turn help people just kind of become more conscious of what's happening, because all that stuff needs to stop being digested. Like we digested that our entire upbringing, you know, casually. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I can go on forever.
Yeah.
So really quick, I just rewatched Legally Blonde. I watched that movie so much growing up, like the little like bend and snap moment. I was like, oh, cute. I rewatched it, and there is not one Black person in that movie anywhere. There's maybe like a one background character, maybe, or in brown people in general. Like it's literally like the title Legally Blonde, like everyone is just very white, which is like, okay, y'all, but just imagine like us taking that in. She's like the pretty popular girl, you know, and I'm watching that little like, oh my God, like she's so pretty, but there's like no representation for me that I can actually relate to, you know what I mean? And yeah, I just think it's pretty toxic, but it's slowly changing. So
yeah, like it's a lot of like unlearning, and just like how like it seems like harmless, but it's actually just upholding this structure of white supremacy, like
exactly
in every way possible.
That's what's evil. It seems harmless, like, oh, it's just a rom-com.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Like,
yeah,
totally. And speaking about love and love interests, like I want to explore the relationship between colorism and how the media portrays story of love and how they interact with each other. For example, the Amazon Prime series Modern Love depicts 8 couples, 8 true love stories in New York City. And even though the male casts are diverse, there are no Black, brown, and indigenous women portrayed as love interests. And this is far from the only example where women of color are deliberately left out being a romantic interest. Can you tell me like what you think about this issue, and are these ideas addressed in your work in any way?
Oh my God, it's honestly just so rude, for lack of a better word. It's like, y'all really out here just making us feel so unattractive, or trying to anyway, because obviously we know, but it's just like, it's not represented now maybe, but you know, it's just not quite represented the way it needs to be, In my video piece, I have a video piece called You Is, You Is, You Is, and I reference, I use a lot of samples from the movie The Help with Viola Davis, but particularly there's a clip in there. I think this clip came out around the time, I'm the worst with like royalty, but Kate Middleton married which prince? I'm so sorry.
I have like very bad with the Mona.
Wait, Francesca,
She married Prince William.
I'm glad you know. So Kate Middleton married Prince Williams. Yes, wow. And so she was like in the media a lot. And there was this news segment that was like on CNN and all these like news networks. And for some reason they were like, guess what, guys? Apparently the most perfect like femme face is Kate Middleton of all people. And two of the people like on this news segment are Black, and like one's a girl, another one's like a Black man. And they said her face was beautiful because of the angle of her nose and like her specific like lip shape, things that like obviously only like for the most part a white person like can achieve. And so for them to be on TV talking about this is the ideal image of beauty in front of like Black people, and they're just like, but I love the clip because everyone in the clip who's not white is just like looking like that. And it's like, for like the audacity one, and it's just so just ignorant, you know. And so so yeah, I put that clip in there to because that piece specifically is kind of addressing just like whitewashing and Eurocentric views and ideas of beauty, and how oftentimes like Black people, particularly Black femmes, are not included in like beauty, you know. So again, that's why I really love watching shows like overseas, particularly though in the UK, just because like anyone can be beautiful. And also I also love that typically out here, like if a Black femme is the lead, she's like extra beautiful, like intense Halle Berry hot or something. But I feel like over there I noticed it's just like regular, like pretty, like normal looking people. And that's the reality. Like that's what life is. Like it's not like this glamorous thing. You don't have to be top tier in order to be seen as like attractive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and this is just my experience with a lot of like television that I've seen. But I'm in the UK, I'm not sure if I'm curious to see like someone who lives there what their opinion is, but just the specific shows that I've watched, like that's what I've experienced. And it's still just so jarringly different from here, where you literally have to be like a 12 out of 10 to be seen as hot if you're Black and, you know, a female lead.
Like a darker skin tone female actress have to be extremely hypersexualized to reach the same standard of their lighter skin counterparts in a lot of ways.
Or you have to be very strong, you know?
Oh yeah.
You have to be like, you know, like, okay, well, since I'm not attractive, well, that just means I'm a strong character and I'm literally like holding this ship together. It's like, okay. So we have two jobs, basically. Or we're like the oracle figure, you know, we're like,
oh yeah. The mysterious, the oracle, and
we can't just be existing. Like we have to be doing something very specific.
Yeah, like the problem of like the white default as humans, and if you're not the default, which is Caucasian, has to be you either have to know kung fu or you have some magic power.
Literally. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you're not white, so why are you here? Let's
Yeah,
talk about why
exactly.
you're here. And then
Let's
that's where all
give,
these like tropes come into play.
let's give a lot of
God.
explanation just so we can justify, and let's have
Yeah.
a full white cast for a Egyptian film or like Dragon Ball Revolution. Let's just whitewash everything, and so it's more desirable.
Well, did you watch what's the new Shonda Rhimes Netflix show? Oh my God, what is it called? Bridgerton? Did y'all watch Bridgerton? Okay. So my mom was like, we're watching Bridgerton, and we watch every single episode. And she loves Grey's Anatomy, loves Shonda Rhimes. But I did think it was interesting, like, obviously during this era, like Black folks weren't just like, you know, booping around like this. Like, well, they were, but not to like the scale that Bridgerton showed, you know? But even in that dynamic, which this dynamic that's obviously very like fictional, they still felt the need to like viscerally explain how the Black queen came into power. Like there's this whole segment where they're like, oh, well, like the queen just was so entranced by this woman, and like that's why they're married, and that's why she's now queen. So there's always this like explanation. But yeah, it's interesting.
I also heard that, even though I haven't seen it, but from what I heard is that most of the Black actors and actresses, even though they're appearing on screen, they rarely have any character development or lines or any of that. It's almost like race baiting.
Yeah. Like if you just watch the show, it's cute, right? Like it's cute. However, if you do take time to kind of think about what you're seeing, it's a little, because yeah, a lot of the characters don't have much depth. A lot of characters are just there to be like, look, Black people, you know, it's not quite like, there's no real reason. There's no like, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of, it reminded me of that, remember the Cinderella movie with Moesha and Whitney Houston? Like so good.
I've never seen it.
But in that movie, like it's so obviously fictional and fantastical. There's no explanation given because obviously, you know, but it's just like this beautiful, like mixed like moment that is easily like enjoyable. And it also felt good to have representation too. That didn't feel like, okay, here's a Black girl, but we got to tell you why we decided to put her on TV. You know, it was just like happening. And that felt really good. And that's kind of the difference with Bridgerton. Like they really explain like why this is able to exist, but like, y'all, we know this did actually happen. So you don't really need to go that far into like explaining it.
Yeah, it's very, and I also want to talk about your work a little bit. And so like your work is like deeply cerebral but yet very like visceral and bodily. It depicts like psychological landscape, but also insides of a body, like organs, intestines. Like it's very, it's gooey, it's wrinkly, and there's this constant tension between the body and the mind. Like I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit more about this connection.
Yeah, that kind of, at first maybe subconsciously and now more consciously stem from me feeling very detached from my body in ways, like not feeling grounded, not feeling kind of just like going through a lot of emotions but not doing things consciously. And I've always been like a big introvert, and also grew up in a household where like expressing yourself is not necessarily like what anybody wants to hear. They're just like, figure it out, go in your room, figure it out, you know? So I never really quite learned to, and I was also the oldest of 5 children. So I was always tending to other people, helping my mom. And then I would go and like introvert and like draw in my room and just like do my own thing. But I never quite learned how to express my own needs and emotions. And I also never quite learned how to like, I guess really process them. And so my videos were kind of like initially, and maybe still are, but just providing a space for me to really process these emotions, interpret them, and then also find a way to like ground and connect my body with my mind or what I'm thinking. And so that started with me trying to digitally paint or recreate a feeling. And so I would try to attribute sounds to like what I tried to recreate what like, say, the feeling of like rage, what rage might sound like without words, but just like kind of recreating the feeling of rage with a visual and with a sound, or like what loneliness might look like, or what heartbreak might look like, or like happiness or whatever. So yeah, it was definitely like a way to kind of like piece things and like give like a tangible environment for these things that felt kind of like disconnected from myself.
Yeah, like also like the wounds maze that you made with New York City. That's kind of like really, really going into it. And
yeah,
you know, like the video I Dream I Saw Myself by the Lake. When I first time I saw it, your piece, the first one you showed, the first time I saw it, I was like, this reminds me of my meditated guided meditation, because I would imagine this glow of light at the center of my heart, and have it expand and expand until it's like as big as the universe, and just like this expansion of the mind. And you also mentioned that it's a guided meditation with the ancestry.
Well, interesting. You caught that without me even saying that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
And, yeah, and talking about like processing emotions, like the digital installation you made with during the residency with Deformal, I feel like it functions like a ritual for self-love, and it's filled with candlelights, written and spoken words, and like sound of water, fluids, and like, can you tell us a bit more about this ritualistic like aspects of your practice?
Yeah, it's funny. I never quite. It's a more conscious part of my work now, but initially, I think just from my upbringing, which I had more of a like formal like Christian upbringing actually, but still filled with these different like my family is technically like from Louisiana, and I have a lot of like Creole in my family. And then in college, I took a Yoruba class, and that influenced me more than I even realized. But yeah, I started adding these kind of like subtle, like ritualistic subtleties into my work, kind of like just a way to kind of find myself or exercise my demons, you know, because we all have these demons. And I think at first, or for a lot of people, it sounds like I feel like there's like negative connotations like with the word demon, or like our internal demons, right? But I really wanted to find a way to not only love my demons or our demons, but like relate to them, because at the end of the day, like they make up like they are us, like we are our demons. So we have to learn to like love them and nurture them in order to like grow and become just better people. So I was trying to find ways to like exercise my demons in ways, or find these like tropes that kind of like speak to that, or even like manifestation rituals. Like I put a lot of candles in the Deformal piece just because I was trying to spiritually, mentally, physically, and yeah, so it's definitely more of a conscious thing now. But at first I was just kind of like playing around with these ideas of like, okay, how do I exercise this? How do I like and like shadow work, like a lot of shadow works, you know, like trying to just kind of like spending time in darkness, or like staring into a mirror to see like what comes back at you. So yeah, well, it's interesting. Yeah. It's very layered. It's very layered.
Like, yeah, I love it. Like when you said that we actually are our demons, and we need to like befriend them, exercise them, and it's like if we just push it down too long, it's in the long term it's unhealthy, and it can explode once it's like just full. Like I have this shadow journal that I would just like type out like all my inner demons and just release it, and to recognize that, oh, like these bad thoughts about myself, about the world, about other people is not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that I need to like recognize and just be at peace with. Yeah.
And nurture. I even made a little like, I would bring it, but it's like deeply just kind of tucked away. But I made this like toddler sized doll, and I had a latex. I had my friend like do a molding of my face. And so this doll has a latex version of my face on it. But it's basically a representation of a demon. But typically demons are like portrayed as these like sticky, just like nasty, gnarly things. But I'm like, we are a demon. So my cute demon. But it's funny because in that process, it was like very therapeutic to like look at this thing that, you know, technically has all these like negative connotations, but because it has your face, you can just really like find like love for it and, you know, love for yourself at the same time. And so I kind of want to make more of them, but for other people, that's in the works. So we'll see. But it just felt like very healing to a healing process to go through, like to make a tangible version of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see it sometimes. And and that's powerful and quite dark.
I know. I know. It's definitely, but I like shining like light on the darkness, you know, because some things like it seems dark, but it's like, well, what's really going on here, you know, and why is it seen as dark, and like how can we kind of change that?
Yeah, like a lot of time it feels like it comes from our own insecurities or the misunderstanding of the world and kind of these negative associations with the things.
And it's not always pretty.
Yeah. And are we running out of time, or Yang-Mi?
No, it's okay. You can continue the conversation as long as you want. No worries. I'm very interested with the doll. Can you do some customized mold and then is it your
you want to see it?
Your roots from Florida or St. Louis, or you know, the voodoo thing?
I know it is very like very like voodoo in a way. I can show you the doll if you want. I just have to get it really quick. Do you want to see it? Okay.
Yeah. There is a market, Vincent.
Yes, like I want it. I want my face on it. Like,
not sure I want my face, but I want something where I can put all the bad energies in it and be trapped and then release from me. And so,
well, there's a line already.
Like really huge.
Oh, but it's cutie. It looks like a monkey key. No,
it's like incredible. A little Furby, but it's so cute. And I made the body because I used to for like a semester I majored in stop motion, so they showed us how to make like frames. So this entire thing is like posable, and it's got like little legs that like bend. But yeah, it was part of a video piece, and it's got my little face on it. I put makeup on it. Like, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to put actual makeup on latex, but I did. So.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that's my demon.
It's very cute.
Very big.
I, honestly, if I imagine what a demon would actually look like, it would be Furby. Like.
Yeah, just like, just running around.
Scare the hell out of
because it's more like, sometimes it's like, you know, it's not like consciously bad. It's just like, almost like, it kind of feels childlike in a way, you know? And so you just kind of have to parent those feelings a bit. So, yeah.
And like speaking of demon and Legally Blonde, I think we can close the panel with this question. Like last time we talked, like you mentioned your love for both horror films and romantic comedies. Like what about them that draws you in? And do those genres like affect you like as a filmmaker?
I think growing up, those genres really resonated with me. Like I was like 3 watching just like The Exorcist, like in extreme like horror movies, or like watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre at like 4, just like I should not have been watching those things, but I was. And it definitely influenced me because I don't know if you noticed, but like in my last piece, Nesting, there was this moment that felt kind of like horror-ish for a moment, like the way the sound was building. But those genres just always really affected me emotionally, because it's just like, out of all the genres, I feel like those two, like romantic rom-coms, or particularly like romantic dramas and horror films, like really like crave for our feelings and really know how to like touch our feelings. And so I just always felt really connected with that, because I feel like I would just feel so much. And like in our household, we weren't really quite like expressing our feelings as much. So to really kind of experience them, or like, I don't know, experience some of these visceral ways, even though it was just like via some fictional film on the television, it still felt like really powerful to me. So those tropes of like, I guess the like kind of like cheesy, over the top, like make you cry rom-com vibes, I definitely put moments of that in my work. Like sometimes my work can feel a little like on the nose, or kind of like intentionally cheesy, or I have these like slow-mo moments like they do in like a rom-com, just because something about that just feels like really endearing. And obviously it's a tool that's used to kind of connect with the audience as well, even if it is kind of over the top, but it's still impactful and it still works, and it definitely worked on me. So I'm because I'm so heavily inspired by that, I kind of just like naturally like reinterpreted or like added those same themes to my work. And even with horror, like someone is vacuuming, sorry, but with horror, the same. It's kind of like this like exorcism of like feeling, like everything is just so intense and extreme and high strung, and again like just really calls and draws for our emotions and our feelings. It really draws for like a reaction. And so for those reasons, yes, I definitely add moments of that to my work, because it just feels very like reactionary.
Yeah, like even though those two genres are like the least celebrated as a art form, but they are the most empathetic, and like they know the human minds, and they want to connect with you, and they want to trigger like some kind of emotions. And I see that empathy in your work, a lot of your work as well. Like
those two genres also don't necessarily take themselves, they can, but oftentimes they don't take themselves that seriously either. You know,
it's self-aware.
It's more and I like that about it too, because especially in art, like I'm not sure how my work's perceived, but I also don't quite take, like I take my work very seriously, obviously, but as far as like how I present it, like there's some moments in my work that I think is funny that maybe other people may not think is funny, but I try to have that same kind of like mood of it feeling like this is just happening, and it's not something that's trying to like take itself so deeply seriously. It's more so like, can you just sit with me in this feeling, you know? And that's how I feel like those genres are too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with us. I think that's all the time we have. And
it's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you. I think that yes, when I saw your page on Deformal, of course, it was very intense, possibly difficult to process or to know what was going on, but we can be drawn really with deep emotion. So well done for you if it was your target. And then so I was going to ask you if, in your opinion, because you are both located in the US, do you think that there will be, after this horrible 2020 year and kind of difficult 21, a different outlook? Will there be a pre-Black Lives Matters and a post Lives Matters? Because apparently there is now a shift in attention to Oriental people. So it is, in your opinion, do you think that you, or in the US maybe, or in the world in general, we have to really continue the fight to be equally perceived as normal human instead of just a color? Not to go back on Michael Jackson, but I mean, it's very easy to draw people in kind of boxes and cases. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's definitely slowly changing, but changing for sure. And I mentioned earlier, like, obviously this is a grand display of them being like, we're changing. However, as I mentioned before, though, I did feel like the Oscars was like a huge, because remember last year, maybe the year before, they were like, look, y'all, we're being inclusive. And they had like 2 people of color nominated or something. But this year, it was a lot of people that were like making much smaller films, people that were like internet based, but also just a lot of like just people of color in general. Like the majority of all of the wins this Oscar season were like all people of color, which is pretty insane. And even the Grammys, like a lot of people of color were nominated, won. A lot of them are independent artists. There's also this shift in like, so there's being a shift in like inclusion, but there's also a shift in like, I guess, status maybe is the word, but like before you had to be like a musician that was like really, really doing some things to get noticed. But now they're like, oh, let's just like surf Instagram and see what raw talent is here. You know, let's ignore color and just see like what talent is here. And it seems like COVID gave a lot of people time to like really check themselves in these ways that they didn't quite have time to do before. Like check their race's value, like their race's views, check their like the classism, check like clout, like a lot of clout chasing, like a lot of things are being checked. I hope that continues and becomes a more natural feeling thing, because obviously some people are doing it too just because that's like the trend right now, but I just hope that continues.
So my last question for you is a little bit maybe difficult. What color do you feel inside? Is there any color we have to feel inside? I don't know. I may ask as well, Francesca, because when you were talking about you being the only 2 Black girls at school, I think at my time as well, we were only 3 Oriental adopted. So coming from the same story, and then all of a sudden it started to mix, and it was weird. I think I was 16 when I had in my class the only African native, person in my class, and it was kind of, oh, the new thing. Oh, that's weird. But do you think that what do we need to feel a color, or what unite us as human? Should we see people as stereotypes, as we all still do? And of course the movies are full of stereotypes. But darling, I'm not watching Bridgerton for the story, obviously, but
Obviously,
for the Duke.
Yeah. Oh my God, no. The Duke is so hot.
And so, yeah, we are as well kind of biased by our own gaze, I guess. We project the same faults, I would say, on that poor actor. Well, poor, I mean, on that actor. But because the storyline of Bridgerton is well mixed, but I was like, yeah, I'm watching Bridgerton, but I'm not watching the story or anything. I'm only passing and fast forwarding for the Duke, and that's it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He is what people came to see. Like that's what people want to see, is the Duke. Like season 2 is coming out, and he I guess he released somewhere he's not going to be in it, and people are like, I'm not watching the show anymore.
Well, yes, it's the dialogues or anything. But so to go back to the question, what color do you feel inside?
I was gonna say, I don't know. I feel like, obviously, I feel like, if I want to get artsy, I feel like I'm like a purple with like some radiating red coming through, But as an actual person, like obviously I'm Black, and that's not something I feel like I feel like the conversation of like kind of added, because you added on to the question too of like what do you feel like like talking about stereotypes and like if how important is color and things like that. But I feel like color is definitely important, and that's something that should not be ignored, but it's not something that needs to be like explained, or it's not something that needs to be like I don't know, I feel like they're like, oh, we put people of like, there's Black people in this movie, so like, you know, like meeting some sort of like quota. But it's like, can we just recognize that we're Black and like that be normal and that be okay, and that not be seen as like something that has to be really like talked about, you know, like, because it's not like something where we should ignore color at all, you know, like we should definitely be aware of it, but it's more so like, okay, this is what's happening and I accept that, moving on, you know what I mean? But yeah, that answers your question.
Okay, great.
But I'm interested in hearing Francesca's thoughts on this too, because I think
it's a bit of a, I agree, and but also it's a bit weird because my family's of East African heritage, and when I went for the first time to Uganda when I was 30. And I remember talking to my cousins who were living in the city, professionals, and they were like, Francesca, why are you so obsessed with color? We never have to, they don't have to think about it in Uganda. The color thing is like, we don't have to think of the color we are. But I grew up, I was born and grew up in West Paris in the 80s. France already has, it's a very conflicted, race is a real issue in France, but it's also an issue that they don't want to talk about. So they pretend it doesn't exist. And there's this whole universalism thing. So but when I was younger, I was the only Black girl in my school, a bit like you and me. And I thought that, you know, beauty was blonde, my Barbies were blonde.
Yeah.
And then I started having nieces. And then for me, my nieces are beautiful. And then they had this mix of dolls, and there were dolls that were of color. And I said to them, so which one is the pretty one? So they would show me the blonde one. And then I would say, which one do you look like? And then they would make a face and point at the Black one. But also one of my niece's best friends is of Vietnamese heritage. And we did the same exercise. And she looked at her Oriental doll and she did this. And I thought, it's funny how interiorized this stuff is. So we think of ourselves, we know that we belong to a certain color, but it's almost as if we're made not to like our color. It's really sad. And at first I thought it was only Black girls, but then my Oriental girlfriends start telling me, no, it's the same with us too, which is really sad. Sorry, I really bummed the whole conversation there.
No, it's real. And I mean, that's just kind of speaking to how I was saying self-hatred is just so ingrained in our upbringing. Like that, all my dolls were white too. In fact, they didn't start having like brown, even the Black dolls still had like white hair, like completely straight. And I'm just like, my hair is not like this. So again, I can't even relate to the Black doll. It's not, you know, it's like a palatable Black. But it's interesting. Yeah, I was getting my hair braided, and my stylist was from the Ivory Coast, and she was like, and she said the same thing. She was like, I don't get why, because the subject came up, and she was like, I don't get why Black people here in America always talk about color. But yeah, it's like, it's so different here, because here it's like always on the table, but in like a negative way. It's not always on the table in the way that feels positive or uplifting or normalized. It's like, oh, you're this, so you're over here type thing. It's like a categorizing. So yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well,
on that note.
No, on that note, exactly. I don't know if Celine or Wednesday would like to say something. So please manifest yourself now. Sorry. Otherwise, well, so thank you so much, Linnea or Billie and Vincent for coming. We were planning already this talk a long time ago, and I'm really happy that you were able to join us for this talk. And so I will obviously try to edit the video. I'm not an editor, right? So please forgive my bad editing. We have in between the YouTube live. And so feel free to join and come. What is your next project? What are you working on?
My next project is I'm actually curating an art show at New Image Art Gallery in Hollywood, so that's exciting. And I have some video projects lined up, but those are more like floaty right now. So currently curating a show, which is like my first time doing that, so that's pretty wild.
Aha, break a leg then. And Hollywood, so maybe you might be paid now for doing your performance online.
I know. Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, it's exciting. We'll see. It's supposed to open June 2nd, so very soon. Like that's
okay. So you're very busy on top of that. Well, so thank you so much for coming.
And I'm designing the show. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be fun. It's just like all, you know, very like new feeling. So it's exciting.
Good.
But thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the mixed emotion that go through the healing. I think we all need that. And really, think about all what we have and think vertically and then expand it as Vincent manifest as big as the universe. Are you doing Reiki or something?
Yeah. I love that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and then see you very soon. And then I'll check about your show in Hollywood.
Thank you. Hey. Thank you, Vincent.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Let me